Did you guys see the trailer for 28 Years Later?
No. All I've seen is Cillian Murphy starving himself.
I did mention that would be Rabby right now.
I was trying to get away with not watching it because I really liked the first one, and I didn't mind 28 weeks later. I didn't mind it, but I was like, because I'm going through this phase of like staying away from trailers because everything is just spoiled now for me. Or I want to go in with like an open mind or whatever, but I had to watch it in the end because everybody is like, oh, here's Cillian Murphy and so that's coming out next year, and I'm like, oh.
Is it like Christian Bale when he did his weird body morphing? He starved himself when
the Machinist, right?
I think that's the one where he went really thin. Yeah. And
then he got massive at Batman, right?
No.
Well, he also had like a pot belly.
What was it?
American Hustle.
Yeah.
Was it that?
Yeah. It was.
It must be that.
It was one of those kind of movies.
Jennifer Lawrence, and some others. Bradley Cooper is in that as well.
Yes, I think.
Well, that's
so.
in that film, yeah. But I can't remember if that's the one where he gets his pot belly.
Probably Big Short or something. No, it was all that kind of.
We're just naming films that he was in now.
Yeah. They were like,
I love Christian Bale.
How did you gain weight that quickly? And he was like, I just ate pies and bread or something like that.
Yeah.
That was.
I could have told you that.
A Wigan kebab. It's like a pie and
Wigan kebab.
Yeah, it's like two slices of wet, white, extra thick bread with a steak and kidney pie in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's called a Wigan kebab. And then they batter it.
They don't batter it.
No, I wish.
Don't have a go at the Wigan lot.
Oh, no, I won't. It's a genius design.
Right.
Go on.
Anyway, what's been going on, boys? What's been going on? For me, Storm Dara has been ruining my life in the FPL world, where I brought in Trent and they didn't play. And then also, hang on, what's that? I look outside, my fence has been brought down by the wind. No one else around me, just my own fence. So that's ruined my weekend, where now I'm going to have to do manual labour. Can you believe that? These hands have not seen manual labour
Cause
ever.
A bit of offence, is there?
So, very good.
More of them.
More of that. So stick around for that. So essentially, Dara's really done me in this weekend. What about you guys? What's been going on?
So I thought I was really smart with the FPL choice. I was just like, I heard the games got called off. It was like 9 a.m.
Yeah, hang on. You didn't message the Discord, did you, and warn anyone else? You just sorted yourself out like the little slug you are.
As soon as the deadline finished, then he put the message in. I'll post this.
It's all about me.
11:31. Okay. I'll post this.
I swapped out Salah. I brought in Kevin De Bruyne, thinking, he's just come off a great game. He's going to start.
I think you deserve this for your little.
You captained him as well.
Sneaky snake
captained him as well, and he's the real slug.
That is
that hairline.
He was so good the week before as well.
We're not all as lucky as you, Brab, who vice captains Palmer.
I wouldn't trust any Man City players at the moment. Not one. I was a big Haaland guy, obviously, at the start, but now...
Who did City have? They had Bournemouth, was it?
Yeah.
Who did they play? Yeah.
And I had Palmer vice, thankfully, because it was either that or Saka as vice.
As if you made the choice.
You definitely should go Saka in that position.
He definitely left it. He didn't do anything.
I feel like I'm hovering at the top, but I've got to make at least a little bit of risk here or there.
So I hate that. I hate that mindset so unbelievably much.
And then,
he's looking for that differential.
So I hate that mentality.
I'll make a throwback to when Joe says that, don't worry, Ben will slip up at some point.
Yes, you're continuing to slip up, and it's not punished you enough
yet. I've forgotten who you made that comment to, but it hasn't happened, is it? So
I've put it publicly out there. I know I'm going to finish above you. It's only 12 weeks in. Or how many weeks are we in? Like 15 weeks? I've got loads of time.
16 next week, right?
Yeah, I've got loads of time. Don't worry. Yeah. Plus, there's the new chip that I'm sure you won't know how to use, so that's even more points for me to come
manager.
In. Yeah, assistant to the manager.
Well,
yeah,
it's Dyche, isn't it? Obviously. So.
Dyche, easy. Next.
It's Gary O'Neill breaking the points. Obviously.
Stick it all on O'Neill. Anyway. Perfect. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. We've had a little bit of intro banter. But we're here, Spill the TCG, myself, Joe Bernard, Alex Dow, and Ben Rabiotti, or Ben Yard, as he prefers to be called now. Have you changed your name officially yet, Ben?
Not yet. I haven't been bothered.
No.
No. I thought you did.
I've changed my provisional.
Keeping a low profile.
I've changed my provisional, but
Your provisional.
I'm yet to change my passport. But that'll happen soon. I mean, my child's a Yard, so I've got to make the change at some point.
Well, that long already?
Yeah.
Also, your child is Ginger, Rab. How's that happened?
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same question.
Well, I want to go back through the bloodline. Has your grandparents has Harriet's?
I was a ginger baby.
Well, why are you...
hang on. So why are you even questioning it?
I had red hair. I'm not questioning it. It was just a joke. I was just like...
hold on, are you ginger?
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not ginger.
Well, he's
you were
not
as a
anymore.
baby.
He's gone grey.
I've gone grey, yeah. I'm all white now. I said
no, but hold on. You were ginger as a baby?
Yeah, and then I turned brown, and then I turned white very quickly. But then I asked my barber the other day, actually, I said, am I...
He was Michael Jacksoning all over this shit.
I said, categorically, if I was to ask you as a random guy, what colour is my hair, what colour would you say? And he went...
Had you given a tip yet?
It's grey, mate. And I was just like, oh, it's fine. I don't mind it, actually. I think it's a bit of a silver fox moment. I mean, the moment I met Harriet, I was
You definitely weren't grey then.
But
were
then
you?
But then my pictures that I was posting were just brown hair, and she was like, "Oh my god, when with this?" I basically catfished my partner.
Yeah.
It's going greyer and greyer since the baby's been here for sure. But and it's thinning. It's just rubbish hair. I might bick it at some point.
It's just rubbish hair. Well, you can always dye it ginger if you want.
Yeah, maybe.
So Nellie's not confused.
Yeah.
Turkey's calling, mate.
Turkey.
Turkey's calling. I'll come back like Terry Butcher with the bloody wraparound on the head.
You can't.
I was imagining Voldemort. Who was that? Tom Quirrell.
Voldemort.
Oh, yeah.
Voldemort. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Well, we've had EUIC registrations this weekend. Alex, you didn't have to stress about it because you're casting, but Rab, did you get your ticket? You're Wave 1 boy?
I did. First time.
Yeah, me too. I was lucky.
I was surprised actually because this is the first time. I thought about it afterwards. I thought this is the first time where most of my friends have not got a ticket first time around than the other way around.
Yeah, it was actually less people got it than didn't.
I was pretty scared.
Scary.
There's a couple of friends that have missed regionals in the past because they woke up late or they just couldn't get it or whatever. But I think everybody we know managed to get a ticket at least by the second wave. But it was pretty scary. I mean, and I was surprised at how many tickets were available, considering how hard it was to get one.
Exactly, 4,000 plus. That's all age divisions, so we don't know the full allocation, but it's going to be a pretty packed EUIC, which is really cool to see. And we know now as well that it's going to be current standard format with prismatic evolutions. That's it. I don't think there's any other sets legal, and no rotation confirmed. So it will be the end of a format very similar to LAIC. Does that sort of change your preparation, Dow, going into that tournament?
From my perspective, or if I was going, well, regardless of we're going as a
from
caster
casting,
or a player, well, as a caster, it's the same sort of aspect, right? It's obviously going to be a case of knowing the meta quite. I'd like to hope quite well, because we're going to be playing in it for quite some time. Mm-hmm. The plan is to play a few tournaments ahead of it as well, just to again make sure I'm going through the motions. And then it's just trying to read the room, read the meta game, and try and understand what everyone's going to bring from around the world, right? This is an international tournament. It's where we're going to get, quote unquote, the best of the best coming to compete for an international championship title. So, it'll be really fun. It's always a bit of a shame. I mean, like EUIC last year, or this year, 2024, was a new set dropped, a new rotation, everything changed then. So that made it really, really different in the fact that I probably had to be a bit more proactive with it. Whereas this time I probably could, absorb a lot of the information.
Tick over.
Over the holiday period and then sort of play into January and then sort of move into the February meta and see how it cycles back round. But lots to look forward to.
I know you're happy, Rab, that you get to play your beloved one last time.
Yeah.
He's locked in.
I'm pretty excited actually. I first UIC in a couple of years now to get to play, so pretty excited for that. But yeah, I'm actually not too keen on playing Snorlax actually. Weirdly,
I was just going to
kind of messing around with other ideas, to be honest.
I was about to ask about yesterday. You were playing Cerulege, weren't you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed
a
it.
challenge.
Yeah. No, it wasn't a challenge, just locals. But I won.
Oh, just
dominance.
Okay.
Dominance. Dominance with Cerulege early on. Get the results in, get the confidence up, and then get it shot.
Did you play anything? Did you play any V-Star power in the deck?
Yeah, I played the Pokémon. Yeah.
I thought Joe was going to ask, did you play
Pokémon,
any meta decks?
Greninja package. Yeah.
No. So the coolest thing I heard about recently was adding in a 1/1 of the Banette, not the EX, the single prizer, just to recover like Briar or Iono. I thought that was a really cool idea.
I could definitely
because I was trying Regidrago V-Star, but that gets targeted and they're taking 2 prizes, whereas no one can really take a shot out against you. So I thought that was a really cool.
There's definitely
innovation.
very thin supporter line. I was playing like 3 Carmine, 1 Iono, 2 Boss, and a Briar, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can definitely see the utility in playing that one off Banette for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think for someone like myself at the moment who's busy with other things in life, I think Cerulege is a pretty good pick actually. Pretty straightforward, and it does what it does well. I think that's one thing I was saying to a lot of the locals down there and a lot of my friends. I was just saying, it does what it says on the tin. Sure, it does have its bad matchups, but pretty good otherwise. Probably would play it.
Will definitely keeps people honest. Hang on, what's if it's not this deck then? What's catching your eye for EIC?
I have no idea. I might
you just said you were testing some ideas.
I might meme it. I don't know. I might meme it.
Meme it.
I don't know.
Okay.
If I'm not memeing it, I'll probably play Raging Bot. I don't know.
Okay, that's the opposite of memeing it. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I said that's what I mean. If I'm not memeing it, I'll probably play Raging Bot.
Okay.
Or Snorlax. I don't know. See how
Keep yourself guessing. Never let your opponent know your next move.
See how the wind lies, mate. If you see my name come up,
Right, don't mention wind because it's going to give me PTSD. Dara's still in the back of my mind, all right? If I hear one more bit of wind, I'm fuming. Right. There was also a regional at the weekend over in Australia. 318 players, and some pretty interesting results. I think the key note here is that 3 of the top 4 players were Japanese players who came over because of the new invite structure, in that Japanese players actually can get that guaranteed invite if they win the tournament. So some very high profile Japanese players ended up coming over: Kato, Hiro, and Reiji, those top 3, but also seeing Haruki in there, Daichi, of course, some other great names as you look down: Ryuki, Okada, lots of fantastic players from Japan. And almost gives this, because it's only 300 players, it's almost like giving an IC vibe back to Australia, which I think is really interesting. Alex, what was your take on the top 8 in terms of players, but as well as the decks as well, I suppose?
Yeah, I think it was an opportunity for Japan, or sort of a country that's going to try and steal some invites away from the TPCI system, and it's quote unquote an easier time for them. You kind of just mentioned the 300 players, rather than fighting through a lottery system first and then fighting through 5,000 people in a best of 1 format or a really funky best of 2, whatever it sometimes their system can be. They've got the consistency of playing a best of 3 in a format that they've probably had a little bit longer. We're starting to converge, but in a format they generally have had a bit longer as well. And it's no surprise with some of the names that have done well. I mean, Kato's previous accomplishments speak for themselves, right? He just seems to be Mr. IC in general, with a lot of his performances. And it's no surprise that they can come over and do pretty well in a field where the Australians, the better Australian players or kind of regional players tend to do better in those sort of tournaments as well anyway. So just the very, very top of that kind of region and that area will just naturally end up at the top of the tables. I mean, even Rahul was 11th again with his old faithful, Lugia and things like Jordan Palmer. Plenty of names that we can keep talking about for quite a long time.
Rab, anything stand out for you from Perth?
I mean, first of all, I was quite surprised at the amount of Japanese players that did make their way to Perth, but then exactly the same as Alex's thoughts there. And ironically, it might be that they have better chance of going to a TCPI regional winning to get their invite than going through the own Japanese route. So yeah, good on them for making the trip over. Kato already, I mean, that name popped into my head because of course they went to Dortmund as well. So it shows that they're definitely making, you know, a smaller impact, but at least an impact in itself on the TCPI format, which is
and I think
good to see.
There's always been this allure of Worlds in that it's like the only time you can face Japanese players, and I think it's always really exciting to play against Japanese players specifically because the mentality around the game is so different.
Yes.
So it's actually awesome that we're seeing more and more often opportunities to come up against these fantastic Japanese players because they're often the innovators. They're often the first to get a hold of the cards and therefore making those first iterations. And obviously it tweaks as we sort of convert over to best of 3, and generally it's like a more narrow metagame over in the West of like we just play the good stuff, whereas in Japan a lot of the time, certainly in city leagues, you can face anything just because it's a different mentality.
I'd say our formats are a lot more similar than they used to be. You know, about 4 or 5 years ago, they were so wildly different that, you know, their rotations were different. They had a couple of sets. Their sets were a couple of ways forward than we were. So I guess the allure of playing a Japanese player at maybe Worlds or whatever was definitely that more enticing. But at least, it still mirrors the same emotion. It's very exciting to play somebody from that region just because they are, like you said, the first ones, finger on the pulse, whatever you want to call it, of how to play and what to play and, you know, what to keep your eye out for. It's good to see.
And just having a very quick touch on Toronto, which is like on the horizon. The top 8 that we saw in Perth, it was a Gardevoir winning, couple more of these Clorf Terapagos in the top 4. There was a Bogthorns as well as a Dragathorns, and then there was some Regidrago like rounding out that top 8 and indeed like top 10. So at the very top tables, it was still Drago doing quite well, but ultimately falling short. How do you think that sort of adapts Toronto? That's just this weekend actually coming up. Do you think that... What would we say are the sort of the top 6 or so decks in terms of popularity going into next weekend? What would you expect to be the top played decks?
I think similar to what we said last week, Drago should continue to be the most played. I think it's still the most versatile. It probably still has with Kato's build, I'm pretty sure it had a Manaphy in it, right? Yeah, it did. Against Gardevoir, it still generally has like a okay time, maybe slightly favourable time against it. It's just some of these decks that will just needs to be catered for within it, the Regidrago list themselves. I think Gardevoir's in a good position, just naturally as a deck. I think obviously Kato's played the slower build. I think it didn't have the rare candies. He's gone back to kind of again old you faithful kind of version. Rather than the go fast, go hard type with trolleys or anything more special like that. And Clorf's still doing bits. I think I mentioned. Do
you think that makes top 3 this weekend?
No,
I
don't actually think it makes top 3. I apologise. It's probably Drago.
No, I didn't assume you meant that, but I'm just trying to think about it myself.
I would probably say Drago, Zard. I think Raging Bolt finally falls off.
Bolt. Oh, you think it finally drops out of top 3?
Yeah, I think Drago, Zard top 2, and then the rest is like quite an even field of like 6-7 percenters.
Okay, yeah.
It wouldn't surprise. I don't expect Dragathorns to be higher than maybe 5%. I think it's a really good deck, but I don't think people will pick it up. Clorf, maybe head to like the upper parts of like 7%, 7-8%. Maybe I'd put Clorf third, maybe just because it's pretty easy deck to kind of pull together and actually start playing.
Do you think? I feel like it's tough in terms of like comparing it to the other aggro smashers. In terms of like how important your turn 1 game 1 turn 1 sequencing is. I feel like it's a bit more difficult to picture for players compared to like a Bolt.
I just think it's based on how it's generally performing. People would just kind of naturally just pick it up because of that.
Yeah.
And they've had more time with it now, right? Since it's showing in Sacramento.
exactly.
So the more time it's given, the more opportunity players get a chance to actually test it out and maybe bring it to a tournament.
You were just looking at the Trainer Hill data earlier, and you're saying it was pretty busted from its online results as well.
It had one red, which was Lugia. I mean, I didn't probably check the full data and start twisting the dates and stuff, but it was just Lugia.
It's a red you'd be happy to take, right, at the moment?
Yeah.
Lugia. Lugia probably not going to be in that top 6, you would imagine. Maybe behind, maybe even Miraidon as another easy to play aggro deck. Guardi as well, having its resurgence. I think Klefki is one of the big driving factors around that as well. Whether you want to play the Henry Chow or the Trolley Call Bell or the Kato list, which is just pretty straightforward and like old times kind of build. Rab, any other things you would say in that top 6 of decks, or more or less the same?
We've had 2 regionals in a row where Clough has done pretty well. You were discussing about it just before we started recording, Alex, about how good the matchups actually did look on paper. I think more people will pick up Clough, whether it gets onto that kind of first graphic, I'm unsure. But I think it's safe to say it'll be Public Enemy. Whether number 1, I'm unsure. But I think otherwise it's the same old suspects for me. I think Regidrago is still far too powerful not to consider playing. I think it should be in everybody's top 2 or 3 decks to consider if you want to at least do quite well. This is the 2nd regional in a row where Dragapult Iron Thorns has made top 8. And they're very few and far between, just because, I mean, I was watching one of my friends play it yesterday, and it's quite complex in how you approach each matchup. It's one of those decks that has an answer for everything, or tries to have an answer for everything, with either going 2 routes, the Iron Thorns or the Dragapult. But I think it's still that little bit too, I don't know, fresh, I would say, for people.
See, I don't see it as a complex deck at all, really.
I
see it. I see it as
I think it's quite complex.
I see it as like an opening hand simulator deck for me. I feel it's like you have a very simple turn 1 and 2 game plan that you're doing every game, and just seeing how it disrupts the opponent, more or less, right? Like, what matchup changes what you're doing? I don't think any matchup changes what you're doing.
No,
I was just seeing how long you can go on for. I was just trying to get a reaction from Joe by just giggling.
I was letting him dig as far down as possible before.
Of course,
yeah.
No, I don't know. It's just my mindset, obviously. My fragile mind.
What did your friends say? What did they say? What was difficult?
I don't know. I didn't ask him in the end. Just kind of watching and learning, taking it all in.
Stick of Thorns in the active.
What's he done there? Another recon directive.
He's putting energy to the bottom of the deck. Oh my god, he used Crispin afterwards.
Sorry, he's wait.
Where's
he gonna move that energy back from the active? Is that onto a Drakloak? Weird.
Yes. Okay, fine.
Good.
Whatever. Next.
But yes, it won't be highly played. Finally, some common sense. Right. I think we can move on to the main event of today, which is going to be our first annual, as long as this goes well, award ceremony, which I'm just reading off the script here. Rab seems to have done the spreadsheet, and he's called it the Spillie Awards.
Yeah, the Spillies.
The Spillies is what we're going with.
Think of a different name. Go on.
We couldn't think of anything better than that, so we're going with the 2024 Spillies of the year.
The Spillie Awards.
And this is going to be a combination of we're going to present a case for 3 categories, and then you guys can all get involved as to who will be the winner of each of these awards. So check the links in the description for you to follow. It's going to be a very quick Google form, 12 categories here, so it won't take you too long at all to get involved. It's a bit of fun, but also we can look back on the year for a number of things. So you guys ready to get in some of the Spillies?
Yeah, I'm presenting screen.
You're presenting on the screen. So our first category we have is Best Deck of the Year, or Rab, what did you call it?
Best Deck of the Year.
Okay, good.
It is his best deck of the year.
You're going to have to give a bit of context on that.
We've had some arguments before the show started, in that we had these very basic names of all these things, and then for the form itself, Rab was just getting quirky with it and just
I was just been injecting a bit of fun into it. I don't know. Joe just wants to suck
I just
fun
hate
out.
fun and would rather people know what you're talking about rather
Rab
than just
turned
flamboyantly.
So,
He's turned this into the
derailing us.
Razzies or whatever it's called.
if there's
The Rizzles.
if I came up with another phrase or a different name of the award, then I'll let you know, and then they can decide.
Okay, good.
We'll let the public
Well,
decide.
the worst thing was, it's like you did a really bad thesaurus that made it a different category in itself, or that like
Well, it
you
was
would give
the-
it a title that we had no
you
idea
didn't remember
what,
what it
you were
actually
talking about.
was
There
when
was
you
the
changed
love,
it.
There was the love-hate relationship award, and then there was the hate to love award.
That's the sort of level. So I've saved you all from that. So I'm glad that I looked over his
I
work.
was very tired. I needed
Before we
proofread, but
started.
it's fine.
But anyway, best
yeah.
deck of the year. Very easy to understand. And we have all put forward an option. We've all specifically gone for different options as well. So there may be situations where someone answered the category first, so the other person's had to adapt to survive. But here we go. Alex, what is your best deck of the year?
Yeah, so I was one of those who suffered from everyone else going first for a half of these. My best deck of the year is a deck that has just won the most recent regional championship, and that's
very
Gardevoir EX. A deck that's obviously been around for some time now. You know, thinking about even the year before, it was this close. That's this tiny little minuscule amount.
Right, stick to this
close
year,
to
yeah.
being world champion, but for this year as well. In the build-up before the World Championships, in the biggest tournament of the year, it really shone alongside the new partner Monkey Dory, but Gardevoir EX in the hands of some very, very good players. Needless to say, Stefan Ivanovs, and then more recently the Henry Chows of the world, and etc. It's really just continued to perform, and it's similar with a lot of these decks where it's finding its way to adapt into the meta as it keeps changing. So that's my best deck of the year.
Yeah, very good. I think that NAIC definitely sticks out in my mind as the takeover of Gardevoir, no doubt. Ben, what about you? What's your deck of the year?
I picked Regidrago V-Star. I mean, I think that would have been the first choice for both of you, but I did have the first pick of the decks and the choices for a lot of these awards. But I think Regidrago... why are you laughing?
It wouldn't be either of our picks.
Really?
Here's why he's laughing.
What would you have? What, you would have picked these two over Regidrago? Really?
Dal wrote down what I had already put. So.
Right. Okay. I just think Regidrago's consistent. I think ever since it kind of, I say burst onto the scene. I think as soon as further cards had come out and sets had come out and different options that it was giving the deck, I think it just got inherently stronger each set that had come out. And I think at the moment, as we go towards rotation later on, I think it'll just get stronger and stronger. And I think its regional placements and its regional wins as well. I think it just puts it kind of S tier for a very long time. So I just put it as the top deck, and I think it has probably, out of all of the top decks that you would consider for a Deck of the Year award, I think Regidrago probably has a good time into each and every one of them. So,
we're talking matchups now, are we, across the year? Well, I'd like to see you beat me pre-Shrouded Fable with Regidrago, that's for sure.
Look, we're talking longevity here, right?
It's about the whole year.
Yeah, it's about the whole
beating
year.
down on Regidrago.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, that was it.
Well,
that was it.
I mean, it did have a bit of a showing at NAIC pre-Shrouded Fable, to be fair, but it really felt like that's what turned Drago into a real deck, right? It was the Kyurem most of all, but also Dragapult to an extent. But anyway, my option is Charizard Pidgeot, the correct answer if you're looking at the stats. And it had 11 wins this season in the Masters Division alone. Also had a bunch of wins in seniors and stuff. And I think we just have to...
This season?
This calendar year.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think looking back to rotation, really, back to EYC, when it won in the hands of Tord, that's when the deck was super insanely scary. And looking at meta percentages now, we're in this realm of 15% at most. But going back towards that April-May time, it was 25% Zard in every tournament. It was like by far the clear choice for most players, and it was about play Zard, beat Zard. That was the main conversation that was happening, and it's a completely different narrative now. But it went on a crazy streak. I know it went from EYC to then Orlando to then Perth to then Sao Paulo. Like these are back-to-back-to-back wins from Zard. So ridiculously consistent. It made like Chen Pao decent, and it made Snorlax decent just as counter picks. So it completely warped the meta around it, which I think is the thing that sets it apart this year as being the best deck. Even if it's a bit more like sporadic at doing well, it still won in Stuttgart like just a couple of weeks ago, right? So it still has the power level behind it, even though you have to wear it thin a little bit now with the 3 stage 2s. And I personally hate playing the deck now.
Thank you.
Really,
Yeah,
but I did.
I was about to say, yeah.
The last few weeks.
Oh yeah. The last 2 months
Trashing
I've
the
hated
deck.
on this deck so much. I mean, I personally I can divide the personal opinion against what is the raw data, and that's why I've put Charizard Pidgeot on top. Let's move on to our next category of most hated deck of the year.
Yes.
I guess we'll reverse Snake. So I'll just quickly mention Lugia. It's a pretty obvious one. If you ever test enough Pokemon, you'll come to hate this deck because it's decided by coin flips all the time. And also, whenever you play against it, you can actively see that your opponent uses a coin flip card like an Aroma. It goes a certain way, and then you see them like grab a basic, then research, and you realise that they would immediately lose on the spot if the coin flip was the other way around. So you hate playing the deck, and you hate playing against it because you know exactly how much your opponent's high rolling into you to even play the game at all. So that is my most hated deck of the year, and I think a lot of people will back me on that one. Rab, what about you?
I'd agree. I picked Lost Box only because I think people hate playing against it, and I think people actually secretly hate playing it as well. I used to really love Lost Box in its kind of simplicity when it was back to the Clara Charizard build, but now it's kind of got more and more complex as time has gone on. Because it needs to deal with multiple things, and it needs to add all of these different tools, or different trainers or different Pokemon to try and make it work. But also, it's just laborious to play against. And there's so much work that has to be done just to get a simple knockout from time to time. And
I feel like you feel that on live massively as well, just how slow the deck really is.
It is really slow, and I despise slow decks. It was either this or Gardevoir for me. Most hated deck. And then going back to, I think people actually don't enjoy playing it secretly because of how kind of strenuous and stressful the deck inherently is. This was just the number one choice for me. There was no other option apart from Gardevoir.
There was no option apart from all those other options.
Apart from Gardevoir, like I said.
Alex, round out there.
Mine's probably a little bit more controversial than, I guess, maybe less than Lost Box. But mine's Chen Pao. It's just a deck that I've never really enjoyed, or never really understood people's enjoyment of playing this deck. It's had spells, right? I think, again, at the start of this calendar year, this is really hard when we're talking about seasons or calendar year now. This calendar year, it had a really strong spell at EUIC, when Charizard was really coming to the forefront as the counter pick, and it suddenly was just like having a hell of a load of performances across the board. But it in my mind, it was always that deck which was a poorer version of these aggressive beat stick type aggressive decks that we have now, and for good reason, that it's showing that it can't really handle an adapting meta the way that other ones can. It's had this odd kind of top 16 here and there, but I'd never really understood how people are still bringing it to a tournament is my
Why would you do this to yourself?
I don't understand people's thought processes leaving that up, even to bother buying some shields.
I mean, it's got like pieces and puzzles that kind of come together for it because of the water Pokemon and so on, and the water support, but it's just a bit boring, isn't it? You're boring.
It's not more boring than Lost Box. I mean, come on. I mean, that
I enjoy Lost Box. I don't get where this hate's coming from.
50 actions just to knock out a Cleffa or something. I don't know. Yeah.
And then my next knockouts are quick and easy. It's fine.
Pointless.
Incredible.
Pointless.
Right, we'll move on to the love-hate relationship award. Is that what you've called it, Rab?
Yes, the love-hate relationship.
So these are decks that you really like, but also will betray you at times in tournaments. Is that what we're saying this as?
Yes.
They're ones that we've probably taken to one too many tournaments, and it's eventually caught up with us, and we've ended up heartbroken. So Alex, let's start with your pick.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've had a lot of success with this deck at sort of the local sort of cup scenes. I have played it to larger tournaments as well. Lost Giratina is my pick. It's a deck, and Giratina itself has been a card that kind of flitters in and out of being like a hype card for a while. But it inherently just has this problem of just drawing badly. And then you start putting extra random tech cards in it, and it gets worse. And everyone does it, right, with this deck. There's a lot of people who love it as well. You know, Alberto Conte didn't stop playing this the whole whenever it was sort of viable. But it's just one of those which is, it's only good because it goes behind, it Roxanne's or something like that, and then it's kind of, well, now I'll just smack you for 280 every single time, and it just doesn't always get there. Feels great when it does, but it doesn't always do it. So we have a problem.
And what's worse than your opponent drawing out of the two card hand? You know, that's the real thing. It's like you don't deserve
imagine
this,
it now
and
with all these
like.
With all these additional draw cards like Pheasantipity. It just doesn't work.
Just not cricket anymore.
No.
Rab, what about you?
I put Gardevoir EX, and I thought this would speak to the people. I mean, I don't have a love-hate relationship with Gardevoir. I just hate Gardevoir. But I think if you put 10 Gardevoir players in a room and ask them after 9 rounds how many of them are satisfied, I think only one of them would put their hands up. I think Gardevoir Gardevoir's very hard to play. I think it's too much stress for what it's worth. However, people won't stop playing it. I think because of the interactions that you have with it, I think refinement, they're going to got sort of trade ability. I think people, you love that way of playing. But I think it betrays too many people for what it's worth. I know it's just won a regional recently, but I think it's slow. I think it's too meticulous for most people to play, and I think that's why people would hate it. But again, I think people have the same sort of love relationship with it as well, just because of those kind of interactions. But yeah, that's what I've put it down for.
Fair enough. And I've gone for Regidrago V-Star, which is a strange one because it's like so loved by so many at the moment, I suppose. But it's like we all know it's the best decks, and then it's like, but then I play 10 games with it and I have those like horrific openings, or I just happen to hit all the aggro on ladder, or of course there's the V-Star that goes haywire and suddenly your head's in your hands and you're like, I've somehow lost this game because I discarded those 3 when I needed to not discard exactly those 3 cards. And also it's the fact that like, it's the best, but because so many of the best players in the room also play it, there's that stress of me being like, I know I should be playing this deck, but also I can't take this to a tournament because there will be better pilots of the same deck and they'll beat me in mirror. So it's a multifaceted choice for me there for Regidrago, in that I know logically this should be the deck that I take to tournaments, but I'm always finding reasons to not because whether it's bad draw in testing or just knowing that the best in the world are playing it, and then you won't be able to beat them when you get to the later rounds. So that's my love-hate with Drago at the moment. We'll move on to the next category, which players in most need of a hug is what we've gone with.
That's what I've gone with, not you.
It's what Rab's given us, and I think this is like we're consoling players in this position. They found themselves in a spot where they've got attached to a deck or a way of playing or something like that, and we have to console them almost as an apology that they've fallen into this trap. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. I've understood the question.
Have you?
So has everyone else. Nice.
Good. So my pick is Raging Bolt players, because it feels like they've almost been lied to for like 6 months of this year, in that online data had it winning so many tournaments, and there was also like enough top 8 placements of bolts as to like all the data says this is the best deck, so it kept showing up, kept being the most played deck, especially in recent months. It's been in that top 3 of popularity for so many events. and then just flopped almost always. Like, it's got terrible day 1 to day 2 conversion, like across the board, and even if there is that like one spike, it's like going into top 8 and then losing immediately. It's never going that far into the tournament. So I feel like the Raging Bolt players have basically been sold a lie here, where it's like you're fast and consistent, but at the end of the day, you're still having to flip coins with catchers to even have a win condition, and most other players with a brain can play around your 3-attack strategy, and if they can do that, then you're losing on the spot because you've set your stall out with all 2 prizes. So that's my time for a hug, because Raging Bolt has been like the pill that people have tried to force down your throat the last 6 months. So I'll extend my hug to them. What about you, Rab?
I picked Lugia V-Star players. Speaking to some of the points that you made earlier about Lugia, it's just too risky to play, and I think a lot of players will go into a tournament feeling, really confident. They've seen the best players take this deck to a regional or an internationals, get a good result, and I don't think they quite understand how many coins they've got to flip correctly in order to play it. And I think Lugia does have a little bit of a cult following as well, so I think there are a lot of players that will just continue trying to make this work and trying to, do the best that they can with this deck. But I think because of how much risk is involved in playing it, like I said, with the flips and also having that great start as well, sometimes it is just an opening hand simulator with the deck as well. And I think that's when you do see a lot of players at regionals, when you all kind of huddle up at the end or in between rounds, and they've gone in all confident with Lugia Vista, and they end up 0-3, and they go, oh, well, I flipped tails when I needed to flip heads, or whatever they want to, however it goes. And of course you have Iron Thorns as well, which is an added risk as well about. So yeah, those are the players that I definitely outstand a hug to.
Then Alex, you've gone for a different interpretation of this question by the looks of things.
What do you mean?
Let's have your choice, and then explain.
I read this as just most in need of a hug.
Right.
And my choice is Benjamin Rabaiotti. And all I need to do is point back maybe 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago to his monologue of Fawn's Polt, whilst me and you, Joe, were just giggling at him for about 5 minutes.
I get into a lot of monologues that get laughed at. I don't,
Yeah, exactly. So it feels like we need, maybe not us, because you may reject our hugs, but you deserve a hug more so than the majority.
For putting up with us, basically.
It's whether the public want to give me a hug. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's going to be even worse if he doesn't win this vote now, isn't it?
No.
He gets about three hugs.
Then we'd actually have to hug him. That's how bad it could get.
Terrible.
There's people feeling sympathy for my monologues that make no sense.
Next up, we have most overhyped. Is that what you've put it as, Rab?
I put most overhyped. What did I put originally? I put
deck of outstanding disappointment.
That's right.
Award. Don't forget the award.
Award
for deck of outstanding disappointment.
Right. Okay. Go on. Go.
We'll start with you, Alex.
So I mean, I can just copy paste exactly what you said in the last one, Joe, because the deck of outstanding disappointment should go to Raging Bolt for basically telling all of these players who have picked it up for these regional tournaments a lie this whole time. It happened to find a little spell with one unique or two unique sort of tech cards that allowed Caleb Gadamer to take down a regionals. It's done quite well overseas as well, but it's just not really converted in a way that maybe it should have or could have. But again, we're talking about different metas and different formats, and it's just a bit of a shame. And it's gotten so overhyped that it was like the most played archetype for like multiple tournaments, especially this season so far. Only changing because we've gone into a new set that's dropped for us. Yeah, that's my take. Raging Bolt.
Very good. And Rab?
I put Lugia V-Star again.
Yeah.
I think after its recent success, well, I say recent success. I think when it found success after Worlds, or at Worlds, sorry, with Rahul, I started testing it again and thought, no, this deck still is just rubbish. The player experience, the player experience of this deck is just atrocious. And I think we've only seen that with the player base get lower and lower as time has gone on, and now it's at pretty much an all-time low ever since. Well, I say ever since it was really low before. When Mariah.
Do you need a hug?
Yeah. I need a hug. Yeah. But I just got to give you a start. I don't think we need to speak about it more. Carry on. Next.
Carry on.
Give me the option there. I've gone for Dragapult. This is specifically targeting the pre-NAIC meta, where it was hyped to the moon because it was detonating Japanese city leagues, was all over the place. Tor did a masterclass, it got leaked, everyone watched it in every group chat, essentially. It seemed to be propping up for me. And everyone was saying that specifically the Lost Zone variants, but also in Japan, the Zatu build of Dragapult, which is something that I really hooked onto for a couple of months, really. Seeing so many results behind that one list that surely this is the way to play the deck. There's intersynergy here for acceleration and draw power and all of this stuff, and it completely failed, didn't it? NAIC, it completely failed. I mean, Tord played, what was it, a 2-1-1 line of Pult in basically a Charizard deck, just to say that he still played Dragapults in his list, essentially. And I think Pram was probably the best placing Dragapult Pidgeot player, and that's when we started to see the embers of that deck sort of come together, with Dragapult and Pidgeot being a combination. But really, it wholesale underperformed for the NAIC. For the insane wave of hype that we had coming into it, and even now, it's still just the best attack, but in Regidrago, where you would just prefer to not get a stage 2 into play. Yes, since Worlds and whatnot, it has had good results here and there, but I still think for the doomsday of Dragapult coming out was completely misforecast, and I'll be the first to say that I was part of that misforecasting. So that's going to be my most overhyped, and then we'll move swiftly on to most underrated deck. And I'm once again going to be pinpointing a part of the meta because I'm going for Palkia Dusnoir in this one. It's weird because it's not really been a flash in the pan, but it's already really gone downhill again in terms of play when it could still be around. But I think the thing once again is this came up post Worlds in Baltimore, I think it was, with just a handful of good American players. I know Grafton was one of the highest placing pilots, and it was shown on stream by can't remember who it was now, but we started to see this deck in action and we were like, wow, this is really cool. It's showing off Shrouded Fable stuff, mostly in Night Stretcher Pokestop as this wombo combo, but that was possible for Worlds, and no one brought it to Worlds in any real capacity when it was right there, and probably better positioned for Worlds actually when there was more stage 2s around. Gardevoir and Charizard were some of the most hyped decks going into Worlds. So I think Palkia Dusnoir, looking back, would have been a crazy good Worlds play, and it was uncovered too late essentially, and almost missed its window of opportunity to be amazing, and only a handful of people could actually capitalize on how good it was because the meta switched just a month later. So I think it was only really Stefan and a few other pilots who could actually cash in on this deck, where it was a perfectly poised list with a very, very strong engine for literally 2 months, but we only cottoned on to the deck in the final month of its existence really of when it was a really good choice. So a bit of a flash in the pan, but I think it really could have been the world's winning deck had we got to it sooner. So that's why I'm saying it's underrated. Rab.
I put Iron Thorns EX. I think way back at Worlds, similar sort of situation. I think Iron Thorns had a way better field than it was given credit for going into that tournament, and I think it's just only carried on really with that same trend. I think Iron Thorns is actually a decent pick compared to what people give it credit for. And I think a lot of players will go into an Iron Thorns matchup, or will be asked how the Iron Thorns matchup is. And whatever deck they're playing, they'll go, "Oh, it's easy. I'll just do this, that, or the other," or "I've got an answer to it." When actually, there's a lot of certain things that Iron Thorns can do other than just simply ability lock, to try and get around certain players and certain strategies.
It can flip coins too.
It can attack, can it?
It has crushing. I'm talking crushing hammer. I'm talking Giovanni. Yeah. Yeah, and I always remember back just before the final, I think everybody was thinking, oh, it's just going to be a Roaring Moon win. A lot of the Japanese players and a lot of the Japanese stream team were thinking, oh, there's no question about it. Roaring Moon will smash it. When I was thinking, nah, I think Iron Thorns. I think there's something there. I think that depending on the opening hands of Roaring Moon and similar to any other matchup that they came up against, I was like, Iron Thorns can just simply take it and simply dominate the matchup. And I think, it's got the results to prove that as well. It was a tough choice for me. It was either going to be Iron Thorns or Golden Go, but I think Iron Thorns only because it's monumental achievement in winning Worlds, right? I think that is
the pinnacle.
Simple pick.
And for you, Alex, what's your most underrated of the year?
So I've just gone in a similar context to what Ben's kind of put with Iron Thorns, but I've gone Snorlax. Obviously it is a rated deck, and people always, in the very deep depths of their mind, will realize that the Snorlax is in the meta somewhere. But more often than not, it gets forgotten about. And I'm still going to champion this. I mean, we're entering a format and sort of a cycle now where it feels like, oh, Latias EX has come. Suddenly Snorlax looks a bit better. Yes, things like Petrunt still exist. But maybe I'm just kind of thinking more control archetypes, right? When it's slept on, they tend to do really well. It's won a tournament in our calendar year. A lot of top tier players have actually taken it to some big tournaments as well. And it's just one of those where people, more often than not, I think, don't respect it. And that's when I think it's a little bit more underrated than it should be. Yes, people do capitalize in some way, shape or form, or maybe there's just it still has its inherent kind of weaknesses as a deck itself. Going far and sort of winning a tournament is very difficult, but it kind of, as you kind of spoken about Charizard, it helps to warp the meta quite badly when people actually have to respect it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's a bit underrated.
EUIC was, I feel like, the only tournament of the whole calendar year where it was actually appropriately teched for.
Yeah.
That seems like the only event of the whole year. Yeah. And that was because it was a rotation and there was new cards coming out and it was just good into the best stuff. And
I think it just had a good amount of time for people to realize that actually suddenly it was doing well on online tournaments. And unlike the online sort of meta that is now where people are still testing out new things, that was quite a mature, yes, it was going into new format, but they were testing things like Snorlax. And that's when its percentages against other decks was peaking. And then everyone was like, hang on, we really need to think about this.
Yeah, definitely. And that's when Eerie came out as well, right? That was a big change for the deck as well. Anyway, we're going to move away from competitive stuff and also appreciate the artwork on some great cards. So our next category is going to be the best trainer artwork of the year. So if you guys want to play along, we're going to give you the three options, of course, to vote for, but it's Paldean Fates on for this category if you want to look through some great artwork. I really enjoyed this, actually, and some of our categories were I think these were some of the hardest answers for me, to be honest. It took me a long time to come up with this stuff. But Alex, what's your best trainer artwork?
So again, I was probably third amongst the list of actually picking one, but I went for Clive from Paldean Fates. The secret illustration rare where he's kind of hiding behind a tree. But what I like to look for in artwork is when I see more than just the character itself. And this one has a plethora of different trainers. You've got Cassiopeia, you've got Mela, you've got Eri, you've got Giacomo there laughing at some points. But then there's Pokemon as well, Hoppips, Lechonks. It's a really cool little fun artwork. And that's what I tend to enjoy a lot more. In some of the arts. I mean, there were some quite special ones that I looked past as well, but this looked the most fun and colourful.
It's definitely, firstly, the Google form doesn't do it justice. Give it a search yourself so you can see the full card. But also, it's very different style to a lot of the other cards as well, which does separate it. So
it makes it look like it's one of those cards which isn't legal for play. Right. We sometimes get.
Some of the promotional cards or something,
yeah, exactly. So it's it's really cool.
Very, very cool. Rab, what have you gone with?
I've gone with Perrin from Twilight Masquerade. It's kind of one of the couple-up cards that you get with one of the illustration rares or one of the other trainers. And this is one that you couple up with the Growlithe. people were saying just before we started recording that the Growlithe is actually better than the Perry, but
I was saying that.
They're
Yeah.
both the same. Yeah,
They're not the same.
I agree. I agree with Alex. There's the artworks have got. I mean, they're incredible compared to what they used to be like 5-6 years ago. And I do like it. I mirror the same sentiment that Alex has. Is that a lot of these cards will have kind of their little story in them. Whether it's the Clive with a bunch of pals and a bunch of Pokemon chillers out. The Perrin is obviously like kind of an explorer vibe or a photographer vibe with the Growlithe. And there was so many other cards that I could have picked, but I think that card specifically, just because when I saw it in person, that was one of the first times that I've gone. First times I've said, "Wow, that's such a stunning bit of artwork. That's such a stunning card." And yeah, it was easy choice for me, Perrin, over the rest of them.
Nice. I've gone for Eerie as my pick here. I just love the color scheme here, like the deep blues and the purples and all the Pokemon choices. Contrasts really nicely with like the outfit of Eerie, and it just has some of my favorite Pokemon as well, like Toxicroak being on there, Lucario being on there, Annihilate, one of my favorites from that gen, and Passimian. Like, just great Pokemon on there. Amazing color scheme, very, very striking. And I also think just the expression of Eerie when you come up against it at a tournament is exactly the expression that your opponent makes at times as well. So I think it's an appropriate artwork for the effect of the card as well. So encapsulates it all for me there. Moving on to best EX artwork of the set. My pick was the Bubble Mew from Paldean Fates. It's that similar art style to the Clive that Alex had, and also it fits that bill of having lots of different eye candy. In the artwork, the Mew itself is very cute, of course, but you have some silly faces from the Oddish, you've got the Rattata there, you've got Poliwag, the whole gang's out, and it's very vibrant, really nice, like, soft colours. It's just a really cool card, and you don't see many artworks like this.
Could you imagine if that was your 6 Pokemon lineup that you were carrying around?
Amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Mew's just having a great time, so that was my pick. Rab.
I've got Greninja X. I think it's one of the more vibrant cards, actually, compared to the rest of them. I think the colour scheme is absolutely stunning. And I think it is such a popular card with players as well, and collectors, because I've actually only managed to see one in person once, and that was at a card show. And, it's pretty spelly because of how collectible the card is. It's a fan favourite, as well as the card just being so... it's just a burst of colour onto one card, and you've got to appreciate some of the, like I said before, the artworks have got so much better in the past couple of years, but it's one of those cards that you truly got to appreciate, the amount of creativity and stunning artwork that's gone into it. But yeah, the stars,
it's actually so wild. Yeah,
the stars that are in it as well, of course, for the Shuriken as well. And it's kind of coming at you, kind of thing as well, throwing the card. It's brilliant.
I feel like it's fresh out of Splatoon, is what it looks like.
That's what you said.
So much paint,
it's so
ridiculous.
There's so much going on in terms of colour, isn't there?
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And Alex, what was your favourite EX of the year?
So in comparison to what the Greninja is, which is like a full-on expression of Splatoon colours, I've gone Terrapagos EX, which it's just a very beautiful amount of sort of blue shades across the whole display, and then like an expressive array of colors because of the Terra sort of crystals in the center. It's just like quite a stunning card in itself. I mean, I don't think there's much more I can really say about it. It's just a very, very pretty, I could say pretty card. In terms of like if people were picking something like this up, and it kind of stands out to me. Just because of the way it's kind of displayed. It's just kind of perfectly laid out with the actual text, and then the actual Terrapagos above it with the Terra crystals across the center of it. So it
definitely makes me think. It makes me think back to the stained glass birds as well. Where it exactly. Almost is like a stained glass pattern at times, but it's also like winding roads. There's a lot going on here.
I think
a lot to draw the eye.
Your eyes are drawn to the Terrapagos itself, which makes it quite unique.
I think with the Terra
doesn't take away.
With the Terra, they've got such an opportunity to play with colour as well because of just the nature of it. I think just a lot of the full arts themselves are just really, really pretty to nice to look at as well, with the kind of the rainbow coloured borders and stuff like that.
Perfect. So yeah, those are our three choices. I think those are some of the best for sure. And then the category I found the hardest of the whole lot was Best Illustration Rare, because my goodness, there are so many amazing ones. Alex, you actually had an honourable mention that wasn't on here.
Oh,
but you just want to talk about your boy Clobberpuss?
Clobberpuss. I mean, what an incredible looking card. It's just one of those where imagine those cartoons where like it's very quickly skimming from one corner of a card to another and then just doing an action and then running off doing another action. But he's either beating down on like a coconut, on like a log. I think in the text, his way of being inquisitive is actually just punching things, and it's just like such a unique, weird Pokemon.
It reminds me of SpongeBob when he's doing the cleaning of like 6 different arms are out, and he's just doing everything at once.
When they're like playing on his married Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he's looking after this, what is it? The jellyfish. The jellyfish.
Is
baby.
it jellyfish? Yeah. Incredible. But apart from Clobberpuss, which does deserve an honourable mention for its humour, you've gone with Squirtle, right?
Yes, so Squirtle as my illustration rare. So obviously the set of all 3 first partner Pokemon is great. And for me, it's not even the first partner Pokemon that make it special. It's the Pidgeys in every single one of them. Either they're an angry Pidgey. I think there's a resting Pidgey in the Charmander, angry Pidgey on the Bulbasaur. And then this Squirtle one, he's just water gunned a Pidgey in his little paddling pool. But it is, I'm a big Squirtle fan. I think Squirtle is usually my first choice as well during the games. But the Pidgey makes it for me. All of the Pidgeys. The Pidgeys are great. They're the best.
That trio is tells an awesome story, like you said. Rab, you've gone with Tatsugiri.
I've gone with Tatsugiri. It was a choice between either this or Gulpin. And the reason why I like
with
these
the big
illustration
cake,
rigs,
right?
Yeah. The reason why I love these illustration rigs is that it's different with the EXs, because I feel like with the EXs, the artist has to convey that the Pokemon is really powerful and that it's attacking and that it's quite momentous and it's these big strong Pokemon. Whereas with the illustration arts, they're just a Squirtle or a Persian or a Gulpin or whatever, and they're quite mundane compared to their EX counterparts. But I've gone with the Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri is probably my favourite Pokemon of that gen, and I feel like they had another opportunity to play with a lot of colour because of the different forms of the Tatsugiri, and I feel like at least this one has a playable ability as well. So you see a lot of these on the play tables as well, from a lot of players that have the opportunity to play it. But yeah, it was a good choice for me.
Don't you think this would be perfect for like an umbrella or like a raincoat or something like that if this was just what it looked like? I feel like that they would make so much money if they just did that.
Well, they're so
like
they're so vibrant as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so good.
The blue in that one for the water is just such a satisfying shade of blue. I don't know what it is, but.
And I've gone for the Persian that's giving itself a good stare down, saying, "Listen here, you sort your life out."
My cat does the same.
This is Joe in the mirror every morning.
It's definitely that meme of the guy who's like pointing at himself, right? Yeah. It's definitely what it reminds me of. But yeah, I love the red colours as well, because it just naturally makes me think of like Giovanni as well, even though he has like nothing to do with the card. Obviously it's a Persian, but like it feels like it could be his room or it's like an executive's room or something like that. Like definitely a rich mob boss style trainer, I suppose. And yeah, even the nightscape, even though it's like quite abstract, it looks really, really cool. So really love the art style on this one. And it's like cool and funny to me as well, because it's like a link to a meme. So I thought that was kind of unique. Speaking of which, we have 3 more categories to go. And now we're moving on, again, completely pivoting, to worst stream moment. So this is going to be...
Wait. Hang on. Rab, you gave this a name as well.
I've called it the award for outstanding embarrassment.
Outstanding embarrassment. So this is really looking towards us 3 in terms of our own personal embarrassments that we've come across this year in various tournaments. Of course, live segments always leads to embarrassing moments, whether it's awkward pauses or saying something that you wish you wouldn't have said, or just phrase something weirdly with slip of the tongue, that sort of thing. It's only natural when we're a lot of the time stalling for time for a long time at the desk and trying to find words and things to say, but also in game there's lots of things happening and you're trying to keep up with a lot. There's a lot of juggling that we do when we are live the entire time. But that said, my most embarrassing was when me and Ross were put on the spot at NAIC. And we had no idea about this, by the way. We were taken to the sofa area to meet up with Juancho, and we realised there were whiteboards and pens put next to us. We thought we were just going to do Pictionary to kill some time before Top Cut, but Juancho took us through, me and Ross, a testing partner segment at the NAIC in which me and Ross would have to answer questions about the other person. So he would ask Ross what's his favourite this, that, or the other, and then I have to think about what Ross would answer as he answers as well. So it's like a couples game show type thing, because me and Ross have commentated for so many years together and been friends for probably about a decade now. So, and the reason why it's embarrassing is because I was just getting like stage freeze and just very simple answers I was getting terribly wrong, which then just got me in a bizarre mental state where I was just panicking at even the simplest of tasks. So it really felt like a spiral out of control for me. But even though I look back at this one as embarrassing, I also know that it did make for a very, very fun segment. So that was the first one that came to mind for me. And we'll try and leave links to this stuff in the description as well. We've got timestamps and whatnot. So if you guys want to look back at these moments, you can. But that's my, outstanding embarrassment moments of the year. Ben, what's your moment of the year?
Mine was, so it still said Malmo on here, but I had to change the Utrecht, which I thought...
Very good.
Utrecht. It was doing a game between Kaya and Ryan. I think it was like round 3 or 4. I've got the link in there so you guys can watch it. But it was when I went on a bit of a tangent when Kaya had put down the Spiritomb, not realising. And Ryan was playing Mew EX, Genesect, Fusion build, of course. And I just went on a tangent about how Ryan needs to put down 4 Genesect to start drawing some cards and get back into the game. And I went on that tangent for about 5 minutes. I think the reason why I've put this down as an embarrassing moment is that I only realised the morning after, because he was doing rounds on Twitter where I've forgotten his name now, but he had recorded the segment but was zooming in on the Spiritomb as I was talking about that he needs the Genesect down to apply pressure, which is a phrase that I used about 3 times in that one segment.
Yeah.
So
as you were in a pressure cooker yourself.
Yes,
no doubt.
Exactly. I was just in the boiling part myself. But yeah, that was definitely my worst moment of the year for me, and that's why I put it down.
Alex, what have you gone with?
Yeah, I mean, I can echo both of yours quite easily. I mean, with yours, Joe, I think for EUIC, I was being prepared to do Pictionary on the stage.
Yeah.
And I started hiding, and then they eventually found Ross and Shay, and that ended up with Shay's one where he drew that weird animal-looking thing, cat. I can't remember what he drew, which became a meme in itself. So yeah, thanks Shay for saving me. And yeah, Ben's one is something that we always do. I think I say always. A few of us.
There's going to be slip-ups in every stream. There's going to be a slip-up in some way or another.
But mine was quite recently. We had Daniel Magda just win his top 8 match, a very easy match because he was quite used to it up against Iron Thorns. I had the fantastic opportunity to interview young Daniel, fresh in the Masters division as well. So had a nice little chat, got some really cool quotes from him, being like, I'm pretty sure he said, "Watch out, Tord, I'm coming for you," kind of perspective, who you like looking forward to facing in the top 8 in terms of people that were still in. And then it got towards the end where I was told, all right, wrap it up. Let's go. Let's move it on. So I gave the whole outro bit. And then you had poor Daniel right at the end as it's about to cut away after I just said, we'll go back to the casters. Oh, wait, can I say one more thing? And you can still hear it as it cuts out.
As it goes to the scene shot.
And then obviously 2 minutes later, me and Joe are back on for top 4. We're having a giggle about it because I bring it up again that he hasn't had the chance to give a shout out, and I'm like, yeah, don't worry, all he has to do is win top 4, he'll get another chance. he proceeds to lose top 4, so he doesn't get his chance.
We'll never know.
We'll never know what he had to say. But it did bring laughs because he obviously had his, I guess it's his coach, but compatriot in Miloslav just kind of stood there watching the interview as well, because this is the first time I guess we've really had a chance to speak to someone like Daniel. And yeah, he was just giggling his head off whilst he wasn't really able to get his words out. Stuff like that.
Absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
The cutaway ones are some of my favourites. I remember Ellis Longhurst doing one a few years back on an old OCIC, and it's still one of my favourite clips that I'll watch on a regular basis. So,
I just realised
those ones tickle me so much.
We didn't even say like what happened at the end. I mean, no one watches, but at the end of that same tournament, Joe, where it was Jesper's first winners award ceremony.
I'm so embarrassed that I didn't actually want to talk about it, to be honest. That one actually wasn't as I was more annoyed about that than embarrassed, I think.
Yeah,
I think, but yeah, if you want to look back at another embarrassing moment of that, what was it, Stuttgart? No, it was
Gdansk.
Gdansk. Yeah, it was Gdansk. After the winners' interview, which went very smoothly, it was thrown to the sofas when it was not meant to be thrown to the sofas because we needed a break so that Jesper could actually sit on the sofas and join us. So it just comes to me, Amy, and Alex, and I'm the only one with a hot mic. I don't know this fact. So it comes to us. We kind of look at each other, and Amy's the one who has the earpiece, so she's meant to know when to start, and she's also prepared to be the host on the sofas, but obviously she can't say anything because she doesn't have a microphone. And I didn't know this, so I look at her and just go, because I'm on the sofa next to her, and I just go, hello. Which is terrible. I clearly wasn't thinking very clearly. And because she has I'm holding a big Snorlax plush and she's holding a big Pikachu plush, so I can't see the fact that she doesn't have a mic at all. So she replies to me, but obviously that doesn't go out to the stream. Then I sort of looked at Alex, who's sort of figuring out what's happening and that we're in chaos mode, and he just starts laughing. And then I eventually try and claw it back a little bit, and then Jesper finally finds his way back onto the stage after the audio guys trying to not let him on the stage because he's expecting a break to come. And Jesper has to throw his mic to Amy, and then he has to pick up a different mic that was just on the sofa. It was a whole terrible thing, and we're probably overthinking it because living in the moment, it felt like an hour had passed when it's probably only a few seconds. But I remember coming off that stream being like, we were so close. We were so close to not... Because historically, we always have awkward winners interviews or sofa segments at the end of the day. It's normally the interview itself that's awkward, whether it's someone walking into the shot or not walking out of the shot, or receiving the trophy, or the interview goes weird, all this other stuff that probably you guys won't notice when you're watching it, but we're focusing on certain things that are do's and don'ts or good habits or whatnot that really grind our gears. So after Jesper did a really, really good interview, he just threw to the wrong thing, and there was a miscommunication, and then it completely devolved into a poor end of show, which isn't going to be an option for you. But if you want to look back at the end of that, feel free. I feel like we got away with it because so many people tune out after the games, but now we've highlighted that. Really happy you've mentioned that.
400 viewers is fine.
Really happy.
Good. That's a little treat for you all. Right, we'll move on to best stream game and of the year. Alex, what's your pick?
Yeah, so I think I suggested this topic. So best stream game or best stream match, depending on how you want to view it. I don't think you can look past my choice, which was NAIC 2024 finals between two-time NAIC winner Stefan Ivanov and, what will be no surprise shortly for me in terms of a player pick, Andrew Hedrick as well. If I took an analogy, if you were watching a football match which had absolutely everything, goals, long shots, penalties, red cards, the lot. This is the feature matches. This is what you'd want to watch. Game 1, you had the confusion attacks with the Monkey Dories, the $10,000 flip of the coin from the Iron Hands to actually win Game 1. Game 2 was sort of a bit more back and forth, but Andrew wasn't able to sort of draw out of it. And then Game 3, we went all the way through time as well. And then there was the last turn of time. It was 4 prizes each, if I recall correctly. And Andrew had to hit a way of maneuvering the Klefki into the active with a fully powered up Greninja on the bench, Pokestop. It was 3 complete whiffs. I think it was like double Iono and
discarded 2
like
choruses.
Choruses, that was it.
When he also had choruses outs as well.
That was exactly. And then his last action is to use flower selecting, and then you've got the whole judge shuffle to do it. He doesn't want to put it in, or the judge cut. Stefan doesn't want to put it in his own hands, and he rips the prime catcher for the dub, and it's just like kind of a historic moment. I think it was just an incredible finals, and it was hype. Everyone in the crowds, obviously I was there, having a chance to play at NAIC as well. Everyone was trying to work out which lines or which routes to victory there was at every single point, because it was such a intricate back and forth throughout the series. It was such a hype moment. The crowd was loving it. It was probably one of the few times I felt the crowd were really involved in the game.
Yeah.
Other than like a Worlds final, where naturally you get different crowds of like, like the Japanese are there, and like different sort of cultures and crowds are there as well. But this was the first time I was like gripped, maybe for quite a long time. Spoke quite passionately about that. It was just a really fun game to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Rab, something completely different, I imagine.
It's still blank enough.
You're gonna have to talk about this one, bud.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go to the toilet. 2 seconds.
You're joking, yeah? No, he's actually going.
He's actually going.
Well, I'll talk about mine then, I suppose, because there's literally no notes here. You picked Rahul and Ryuki's game, right? Well, he's gone. Anyway, that's a little teaser for you later. But I've picked the iconic World's Top 8 match between Ian Robb and Fernando Cifuentes. Iconic, as we know, because it was wrapped in controversy, in that Ian swiftly 2-0'd Fernando, with possibly some fortunate draws by having access to his cologne pretty aggressively, which allowed him to donk in the second game. The first game was a little bit more tactical, but Ian Robb getting into that top 4 where, he's been at these top tables before for ICs and whatnot, but this seemed to be, like, in many ways his season of really stepping above the rest of the competition. But then he goes and does something very, very dumb, which is a hand gesture which he should not be doing. And then, of course, there's the sort of confusion around what's happening, because this is a Top Cut tournament. We've just seen a 2-0 happen on stream, and then we see Fernando continue in the tournament despite having lost in front of all of us. So this one's mostly here just for, when I think about the year, this will be the one that lives in the memory for players forever, I think. Very similar to yours, Alex. I think the game itself, if you're like a real lover of the game, I think yours is probably the correct pick. But just in terms of iconic games this year, I think this one will go down for a decade as such an iconic game.
It's not even just a game. It's like the moment in a World Championships, right?
Yes.
He was just rolling a dice, Joe. Come on. He was just,
the biggest stage. One of the most loved players. Who's been there. They were showing cute pictures of him as a junior. It was all wholesome, and then he goes and does that.
It's one of those moments that you won't look back too fondly on. But and then it was the whole kerfuffle of, then all of a sudden, the top 4 is completely different in terms of who's actually partaking in it, which is it's one way to do it. But the show's got to keep going, and Fernando, again, because of that moment, will forever live on in another memorable sort of scene, being a world champion now. But it came off all the back of this top 8. Sorry. Hello, Ben.
Right, Rab.
So
sorry,
he went away to watch his video.
I wanted to cut, but then you carried on. So I'm just.
There are no cuts here, mate.
I'm just going to be not there for a bit. But
that's fine.
No, that's fine then. Yeah.
Good pee,
just in time for you to talk about your best stream game.
Yeah, I picked Rahul and Ryuki in Dortmund. The reason I picked this one is because it was an unexpected final of a European regional with 2 archetypes that I don't think people quite put their finger on in terms of how or which way it was going to go. It was a Dragapult list that wasn't really, it wasn't really thought of because people were putting their trust in Dragapult with Pidgeot and not the kind of pure Dust Noir with Rotom V. And that's what Ryuki was playing. And then Rahul is obviously, of course, playing his own twist on Lugia, which I don't think people would always put, oh, that's Rahul's build. You know, that people were more inclined to play a heavier line of the Minccino.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that game as well because of how Ryuki played it. I think did
he take a 5 or 6 prize turn? I think he took a 5 prize turn in one of the games, didn't he?
Both games.
Both games.
Well,
yeah, okay.
well, I say both games. Rahul scooped the final game.
I say both games. What I mean is one of the games.
He scooped the final game.
But he was setting it up.
He was set up to take another 5 or 6 prize turn from memory. And I think it was played flawlessly by Ryuki. And I think for me it was just a good show of play for me. I think we spoke about before how the Japanese players or the Japanese cohort, or however you want to phrase it, play their games, and I think that was a good example of that.
Especially because, like you say, it's a
very the mindset and the approach to the game. How is my turn going to look in 5 or 4 or 5 turns time? It was definitely one of those types of games.
Yeah, I think especially, like you say, because it was a list that was unfamiliar to us, the fact that this is like a Japanese 60 that is well documented. I think Shintaro had like a massive note article on it, which is essentially the same as like a Metafy, but an article, where he did this breakdown of like what you should be doing in XYZ in like hyper critical detail. So seeing Ryuki basically perform that in a final on the big stage flawlessly does make it a very, very cool game for sure.
And I think they were saying a lot. They were saying it a lot on the stream. It's something that you don't see every day. I've already mentioned it, but an American who is very well travelled coming over to Dortmund, and I think there was a lot of hype around Rahul going into the final as well. Getting a win, and then Ryuki as well, which is. I
mean, he's been looking for a win for a long time.
Yeah, which is somebody from Japan, maybe not well known over here. Coming over to try his luck at getting a regional championships, and the kind of goal to come over from Japan to steal a world championship invite from one of our own. It's definitely saying something. But it was a good show all round from both players.
Awesome. And that brings us to our final award, which is the Spillie Certificate of Great Achievement and Success Award, also known as Best Player of the Year.
I'll make trophies as well. I've
Thanks.
already got them on my mind. I'll give them out at EUIC.
So look forward to that.
I'll give them out at EUIC with a handshake picture.
Fantastic. I hope that comes to fruition.
Please.
That will come.
And that's final.
I want me and Joe to be
I
nowhere
dread to
near.
think what you're gonna. Yeah, I dread to think what a Spillie Award is going to look like. To be honest.
Don't you know?
Anyway, my candidate for Best Player of the Year goes to Giovanni Sasso Silva, who is an aged up senior, but in EUIC as a senior, he did get a top 8 placement with Arctina, the deck that I took to the tournament, so definitely a genius in metagaming. But most notably, this season has been on an absolute tear with Terrapagos Dust Noir, with a SP second, into a first, into a regional second place, all with Terrapagos Dust Noir, which is just absolutely absurd, in the Masters Division, by the way. And that puts him in the top of the global rankings for this season, although not like the overall year, which is absolutely incredible. And he's had such a good run that he felt that at the LAIC, his home internats, he was confident enough to just bring Clorf. Not even Terrapagos Clorf, just Bog Clorf. Because he'd already got the invite. Like, what else are you going to do? And he still ended up walking away with $2,000. So, yeah, insane stuff. And I think me and Alex were just having the conversation before we started, actually, of just the very high quality of aged up seniors this season. We've already mentioned Daniel Magda in one of our moments of the year already, but looking down this list, so many great aged up players that are really just on the top of their game, players to watch definitely, and I think Giovanni encompasses that as the player of the year for me this year.
Yeah.
Rab.
I picked Brent Thomason, everybody knows him as Mr. Worldwide. I don't think in my time with with Pokemon TCG, I've known somebody that committed as Brent has been the past couple of years in terms of attending events, but not only that, but also putting their time into getting big results as well. I think he is consistent. He's always somebody on. He's always on somebody's radar as well. And I just think if you want to get good at the game, he's definitely somebody to look up to as well. Yeah, I could go through his achievements, but it would probably take me too long. Just this year alone. Going to Europe, going to America, home turf as well. There was nobody else on my mind, really, other than Brent.
Just Brent.
I mean, he did win he did win a regional in his own turf, right, in February in Melbourne. He'd won one, also got second place, and got second place at an IC as well. So, amongst like other lots of top 32 and 64s and 16s and that sort of stuff.
Just an overall consistent player. Like there's not many players that can do that. You know, you can talk about your Tords or your Azules, but Brent is definitely up there for me. As one of, if not the best player in the world right now. I just think his consistency speaks for itself, and we all know how hard it is to get just one of those results, but to go time and time again and in such close proximity. Of course, more players, more practice. Of course, we all know that, but to get those high of achievements consistently is something that is very rarely done and very rarely seen.
Also, just the audacity, because of how much he's having to fork out to go to all these tournaments, is that he backs himself basically to top 32 every tournament, and it's somehow the experiment is working.
I mean, as an Australian player, you wouldn't go to Europe thinking I'm going to go there for day 2, right? He's going into these tournaments, I'm sure, thinking I've got the best chance of winning this regional. I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to test for this. I'm going to bring what deck is going to give me the best chance at doing well. He does.
It's definitely
he's not a
unique mentality.
Yeah, he's not a player that messes about, for sure.
100%. Right, and Alex, our final candidate for Player of the Year.
To round us off, so I've gone with the player I've already mentioned in my best stream round or best stream match, Andrew Hedrick. I think in terms of a player since we've come out, even the COVID period, since then, he's been one of the best players we've had in the game. Just based on, just from some of his finishes, he's won multiple regionals. He's obviously now joined a list. I've somehow done a thumbs up on my screen, though. I have no idea what's happened. Won multiple regionals, special events. Obviously now is an international champion alongside that as well. So he joins a very, very prestigious list of players to have even just have done that. And he won the biggest one to date as well. For this season or this calendar year alone, if you just look through the decks that he's played as well, there is such a variation. And it just goes and proves to show that he's a very, very high quality Pokemon player. I'd love to see maybe the breakdown of the events that he attends, or a lot of our players attend, and actually then sort of map it across to the points and finishes that they actually end up having, especially with the number of players that are at these tournaments as well. But there's very little that I can say that's would detract from what I would think Andrew being sort of quote unquote our best player of this season. He's won almost as much money as Brent this season as well. Obviously he did win NAIC, which is a big chunk. Brent came second at LAIC. It all sort of adds up. But yeah, he's just it's very, very impressive player to watch, especially with some of the decks that he's been piloting throughout.
And he feels like ice cold as well. His mentality in game is what's so impressive, is that he's very systematic in how he goes about things, and I've rarely ever seen him making a mistake on the stream, and that's such a rare thing because the stream will throw off even the best players all the time, and they will analyze their own gameplay and cringe, whereas Andrew can be confident that he's making the right decision a lot of the time, even in those high pressure situations. So there you go. That is what do we call them? Spillies?
the Spillies
of the year.
The annual Spillies.
The first annual Spillies. We'll see if
Joe still can't say it with a straight face.
No, I don't think you're meant to. I think it's meant to be taken with a pinch of salt, but we would love your input on this. Share it around. It's a good bit of fun, and it also is a great thing to reflect back on a really positive year in the Pokémon TCG, with some great highlights for collectors from a tournament perspective, the growing game, and a very diverse game as well at the moment. So lots of good things to look back on from the year. And, the seasons, we're in the thick of the season as well, so there's plenty more to look forward to for this season, which is awesome. Anything else to say on the Spillies of the year, guys?
I mean, is it crazy that we're doing it calendar year?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. It's because there's no... It's a laugh, sure.
It's a festive.
I think
festive
festive treat. Speaking of which, I've started putting.
I'll post the format with the episode. So as soon as the episode is out, the form.
We'll tweet it out. It'll be in all the links in the YouTube if you followed that. I don't know if you can do the links on Spotify because I've not done the uploads myself, but we'll try and get it out there.
We'll figure it out
as best we can. Perfect.
But yeah, then we'll go over the results next week, hopefully,
yes,
right?
Next week we'll go over the results. I'm dying to hear.
Christmas episode.
Who's getting that hug is my first question. And interesting to see how our thoughts and arguments compare to the overall sentiments from our players as well.
Thoughts? You think? Thoughts?
Thoughts?
What?
We're giving them a comments box to trash us for our choices.
No, I mean, yeah. Thoughts in terms of a tally. I mean, how it stacks up. All right. God, it's getting straight on my back. Right. Anything else to mention? Anything going on this weekend? I'm putting up a fence, and then I'm hoping to get to Dow's as quickly as possible. Is what's happening for me. Alex, you're hosting.
Yeah.
Only a handful of us in the end, but
a chill one. Get a chance to just hang out with some mates that we don't always get to, especially when some players have kind of, I say players, friends have actually taken a bit of a step back for this season as well. Test out some new card games or different card games, and then
we're trying new card games. What we're trying?
Well, they have, haven't they? Hang on,
they have.
We playing some Alestrals.
No.
Don't put that on his channel.
Have you gone off that already?
Bro, I've got a Lestrals Clash Alpha, and it's tragic. Now I must say it's the alpha, so the client will only get better, but it's a bug-ridden mess right now. It's made me appreciate TCG Live. That's the level.
Was that come off the Kickstarter?
Yeah, that's from the. So I've got alpha access from the Kickstarter, and
so I should have that too, but I actually haven't checked my email.
It depends what level you've gone at.
Thought I did, but maybe not.
It's quite a high bar for the alpha.
Oh really?
I've put some money.
You sunk in
this
some
game.
pennies.
Yeah, and I'm regretting it now. I mean, the Kickstarter is a very good deal. You get boxes and stuff and all this other stuff. So I'll get my value back. Don't worry. But the client is very alpha, I would say, and I feel like the beta should be pushed back quite far when it was meant to be Jan.
Is
I think we're nowhere near ready for that.
The same thoughts you had about Live?
I mean, did we get an alpha? Are we still in? No. What are we in? Are we in a beta?
Exactly.
Like, where are we again? I think it's officially still a beta, isn't it? I feel like...
No, I think it's an
official
release now. Yeah.
It's officially released. However, I don't...
if they'd had a public alpha, my goodness, we could have solved a lot before it actually became a thing.
I think it was released quite a while back now, officially.
Good God.
I
can't believe that they've changed the ladder again and it's worse. I can't believe it.
I haven't tried it yet. I'll try it.
Yeah. Episode for next week, boys.
Arceus League means nothing, and now if you get to Arceus League, it takes you 10 minutes to get a game.
Yeah, I hear people were struggling to get games.
It's getting better now because obviously more people are getting to Arceus.
Yeah, there's been more time for people to scrape their way in.
I think the problem is Arceus can only face Arceus, so if you're one of the first there, then sucks to be you. But anyway, that's a whole different topic for a different time. Rav, what's your weekend looking like?
I'm just changing nappies and playing Marvel Rivals. That's what
Have you started it yet?
Yeah, it's not bad,
Yeah.
It's not bad. I mean, it's picked up where Overwatch has all failed, so...
in terms of what?
Pretty good.
Yeah, what has Overwatch failed?
Just in terms of hero or champion or
abilities
and what do you call it?
Like in terms of
Balances. As
Okay.
well as that, I think the maps are a lot better. I like the fact that it's third person. It's just something different. It's
Who
a
have you
different.
been mostly playing, Rab?
Oh, Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, of course you fucking have. Haven't you?
Squirrel Girl. Is
Language.
So broken. She's great. She's
I've
like,
heard the shark is really good. Isn't the shark really good?
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yeah,
Oh,
Squirrel
Jeff.
Girl's brilliant. It's just Junkrat. You know, you just sit in the corner and just spam. That's great.
Yeah, that
Okay,
sounds really
5
fun and
kills in a row.
balanced.
And I've been playing a lot.
We
of
need to
Battlegrounds.
try and get. Yeah, go on. Yeah,
Playing a
Battlegrounds,
lot
not
of
Bob.
Battlegrounds.
I feel like the Battlegrounds updates are so good. Actually, I'm actually enjoying it again, which is dangerous.
Has everyone been on it?
The latest
I played it.
brilliant. You've played it. You're such a liar. I see you online all the time. You're on.
That's
two
why I
factions
literally
of
just
Battlegrounds.
said I've played it. I'm playing
right,
it.
okay.
What?
I thought you said I've hardly played it.
Gaslighting him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, what's going on here?
I think I've got a higher rank than all of you, but
That's because you've been playing it. Like
You don't have a
non-stop.
job.
I have a job.
Yeah, you're just not at
Actually,
it.
I'm going back to work next Tuesday.
Is it next Tuesday?
Sick. That's crept up.
Next Tuesday, I know. 7 weeks. 7 weeks.
Horrible.
7 weeks
role,
off.
Different role running about.
Are you going to go in every day and be like, oh, nice to have a break?
Well, the funny thing is I'm back on the 18th, and then I have... So I'm Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then it's Christmas Eve, then Christmas Eve, then Christmas Day, then you have...
Are you working over Christmas?
Yeah. I have no more annual leave. I took the rest of it for Hawaii. So Harriet was very happy with that, obviously.
Are you just having a very chill Christmas? Is it just
Pretty much.
the three of you?
Pretty much, yeah. Well,
No
we're
fam.
gonna do Christmas Day with the family and stuff, but she gets 8-week jabs.
Her side or your side?
Her side.
Which fam? Her
Right,
side.
my
save
dad
it
in
for next
Southampton.
week, boys. Christmas isn't here yet.
Wait.
Damn it.
I've got the carols going on in my car. I'm so ready because I leave on Boxing Day. I'm getting my Christmas feel now.
Oh, everyone's rubbing it in. I'm having a great time.
I've got my lawnmower. Lawnmower.
Landmower.
Land shark. The land shark is out.
The bauble. My lawnmower
Yes.
bauble.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Got that out. Quick
Yeah.
time.
Right, perfect. I think that's just about wraps us up this week.
Yep.
Once again, please get involved in the awards. We need your feedback to give us an episode next week. And we'll also be talking about Toronto
Please.
results.
Please
But
applaud.
we need you.
Please
we really
applaud.
need you.
Yeah.
Applaud now.
Please applaud. Please.
Applaud for the
Okay.
end of this episode because you're finally able to click away from this shite.
Anyway.
Anyway, see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.